Hello and welcome to this week's vlog. It's Friday afternoon, I've just popped down after work. It's a lovely day, it's 22 degrees, blue skies and lovely sunshine. So this was one of my cucumber plants, and as you can see it's just rotted at the end. It wasn't quite this dry, but I came in one day and it just keeled over and died. So I've put a melon plant in there. The other cucumber is not looking terrible, but this is a cucumber, I think there's two actually in here, that one of my plot neighbours gave me. And to be honest, looking at it, I'm not 100% sure it's a cucumber, but I'm just going to leave it in that tub to carry on. And over here I did have a tomato plant, but there was an ant's nest. You can just see the fine soil that the ants leave, red ants, and when I pulled the plant out, which had completely died, there were all ants' eggs tangled in with the roots. So this is a runner that I've taken off one of the other tomato plants. I've just popped it into the ground. I buried it 6 or 7 inches in there, and hopefully it'll pick up in a day or two. And now that the weather's warmed up, I'm hoping everything should start growing on. Some of these tomatoes are looking a little bit sickly. The leaves are yellow at the bottom, but the new growth is nice and green, so hopefully they should be fine. So at the front here I did have 3 heartbreaker tomatoes, which are a small cherry tomato, but again this one there was an ant's nest in it, so I just dug the ant's nest out, took all the soil out of the way, and I've popped my aubergine in, and the roots were starting to come to the bottom of the plant. So I just dug out a small area, put some bloodfish and bone in and some grow more. I've just popped it in, so hopefully it'll perk up. But everything else is looking good. The watermelons, I've stood them off. I think I was soaking them in a little bit too much water, so I've left them for a day or so just to dry out, and I'm still planning on putting some in one of the beds on the second plot. But also the parsnips that I sowed about a week or so ago have all started to come through, and it's typical. I use an entire packet and I'd say 70 or 80% of them have germinated, where in the past I've put them in and nothing's happened. So I hugely oversown these, and now I'm going to have to prick them out. And the beetroot has all stood up and is growing well. Right, let's have a look what we're going to do. So this is the bed with the onions in that I put the cover on. So I'm going to take the cover off. I've got a couple of hinges on it which make it easier for weeding, so I'm just going to take it off and pop it onto here, and this is where I'm going to put the Savoy cabbage. But before I do that, I'm going to rake it over and get rid of as many stones as I can. I've given the bed a good weeding over, raked it flat, got up all the large rocks that I could find, and I'm just going to put 2 rows in. And these 2 lines are 20 inches or half a metre apart, and I'm going to sow the Savoy cabbage at the same spacing, so they're going to be half a metre or 20 inches apart up the row. So I think I'm going to get 10. I'm going to be able to get 10 plants in there. All I've done is dug the holes, put some lime around the edge and some chicken manure pellets in the bottom. Now I'm going to fill each hole up with my homemade compost, and then I'm going to pop the plants in. And what I don't use I'll just keep just in case, because I'm sure some of them are going to get eaten by slugs. So I was just going to get a bucket full of homemade compost and get that all sorted. That's the planting holes all prepared. I found a piece of wood which is roughly the same size as the bottom of the cell tray, so I've just popped a hole in there, roughly as deep as I think it needs to be. So I can put a little bit more lime into the holes, pop the plants in, then rake the soil over the top to get it nice and flat. Good morning, it's Saturday the 27th, down at the allotment today, and the plan is to get the squash bed finished off, get the rest of the plants in. But before I can do that, I'm going to have to give it a good weeding, because there's lots of little weeds just poking through. Nothing major, it's only going to be 10 minutes work, but I'm just going to get that done and then we'll get the squashes in. As you can see, the sweet corn's finally come to life. Courgettes are greening up. Butternut squash still looks a bit yellow and sickly, but hopefully with this warm weather it should pick up a little bit. But yeah, I'm just going to go over, get all the weeds out. There's a little bit of a bindweed coming in. Other than that, nothing major. So I'll just get on with that now and then show you results when I'm done. That looks a million times better. Hand weeded the entire bed, both sides, and then I've just hoed it over. So anything that I missed, I'll just chop off at the neck. So I've got a few gaps here. I can put a squash up against there, on that side. I could possibly get another one in there for climbing. And then in this area here, I'm going to put the bigger squash, the sort of jack-o'-lantern type squash, and any that are left over I'm going to put underneath the broad beans and runner beans on the other plot. But yeah, that's looking really good now. I'm happy with that. I've got everything in place. I've dug the first planting hole, and into the planting hole I've put a handful of 6X farmyard manure, some grow more, blue fishing bone, and mixed it all up. So I'm going to have 6 Swift sweet corn with a Charmant pumpkin, which is one of the large jack-o'-lanterns, and then I've got 2 crookneck squashes, one on each end, and in the centre there I've got a Peter Pan, which is a patty pan squash, and they all should trail up over the trellis. So I'm just going to get these all planted in now, and I shall bring you back when I'm done. That's all the new plants put in. There's the Peter Pan there. One of the crooknecks there. On there, and there's a sweet corn. That's a pretty good morning's work. It looks a lot better than it did when I arrived. I was going to put more sweet corn in, but only 6 germinated, so only 6 are going in. Can't plant what you haven't got. Well, I'm up on the second plot at the moment, and I've just put in the watermelon. I'm hopefully going to be able to grow this year. It's a little bit of an experiment. I've never tried it before, but apparently you can grow watermelon outdoors in the UK as long as you protect them from the worst of the weather. So I'll show you what I've done and talk you through my plans. A few weeks ago I bought myself one of these cheap poly hoops, I think you call them. It's basically a very small poly tunnel, and at each end I've put in 1 watermelon plant. This section here lifts up so I can pull it up if I need to water, and then hopefully they should grow along the length of the bed, which is roughly 3.2 meters. Not sure what that is in feet. And fill it up. I've also put in some of the patty pans. I put 1 each side, and hopefully they'll grow along and fill up the rest of the bed. And then I had two spare. So these are crookneck, so I've just put 1 in here and 1 in the other end, and they can grow up the trellis or along the ground, whichever they're happiest with really. And I've still got my excess flowers to sort out, but I'm going to sort those out tomorrow. It's getting a little bit late now. It's getting on towards 1 o'clock, which is lunchtime. So I'm just going to get myself a few strawberries, which are doing particularly well. It's not quite ready yet, but these 2 are. Oh no, just redden up a little bit. But these were just excess plants. This was a bucket full of weeds, and I just threw them on top. Weeds have all rotted down, and the strawberry plants are going great guns, as is the new bed, or the new beds. So hopefully with all this sun and warm weather, it should all be thriving. So that's all for today. I'm going to pop home and have lunch, and we'll be back down bright and early tomorrow. Welcome back. It's a glorious Sunday morning. It's around about 9 o'clock in the morning, 9:30, and it's already 21 degrees outside, so it's nice and toasty inside the Ponga tunnel. What I want to do today is just basically a little bit of weeding. It's been pretty full on for the past month or so, and now most of the things are in the ground. It's time to take your foot off and just enjoy the garden. I was having a bit of a look around yesterday evening when I came down to water, and there's a striking difference between the bed that I extended with my homemade compost, the size of the tomato plants and the sweet peppers, compared to the existing bed. So I think what I'm going to do at the end of this season, so I'm not going to put anything in the tunnel over winter. I'm just going to fill all the beds up, top them off with homemade compost. This soil's been worked pretty heavily for a couple of years, so I think it just needs some goodness putting back in. You can see there that the peppers are huge on that side, and on this side sort of half the size. So obviously they're looking for nutrients. So I'm going to give it all a good weed, and then I might put some feed down just to give everything a little bit of a boost. But yeah, so this area, obviously with my homemade compost, there's a lot of weed seeds in there, a couple of volunteer tomato plants, various bits and bobs, but I'm just going to get that sorted out now and get it all looking nice and neat. I'm also going to trim off some of the lower leaves of the tomato plants just to get a little bit of air circulation around the base of the plants. In a polytunnel, good weeding. Missed one. There we go, that's him gone. And I've also gone over the top and I'll give everything a light dressing with some 6X farmyard manure, which is supposed to be 6 times stronger than the normal fertiliser. I'm not sure how they work that out, but that's what it says. So I'll just put some around the base of all of the plants. You can see it there and there. I'm just going to let that work in, and hopefully it'll give them all a little boost. Also picked off a couple of caterpillars off the basil. Next to the 2 potato beds on plot number 2, I had a bit of spare ground. It was just covered over with a bit of polycarbonate. There's weeds growing in it, and it's making it look a little bit of a mess. So what I've done is I've just weeded it over, give it a quick hoe over, and then I've put some of the hollyhocks in there to grow on. They're going to be better in the ground than they are in the pots, and it just uses up a little bit of the extra space and makes it look quite nice. So now that section's done, I'm going to move on to the pond and tidy that up. As you can see, it's getting a little bit overgrown. Some nice foxgloves in there and some poppies, but there's a lot of weeds that I don't want in there. So I'm going to cut the rhubarb back, just get in there and give it all a good weeding, and then I'm going to put some of the excess hollyhocks in there. That's the wildlife area, tamed. I've never seen so many hoverflies, bees. There's a few little frogs knocking around in there as well. It's quite nice, just sat there, just doing a steady bit of weeding while all the insects do their thing. I've left in anything that's got flowers on. I've took out all what I think are the invasive weeds, and just put in I think I put in 6 hollyhocks, just spread them out, and some campanula. Yeah, that was just some that I had in a tray, so I just took it straight out of the tray, buried it in the ground. Hopefully it'll do okay. And in a little while I'll give everything a good watering in, and then hopefully a lot of this will self-seed, and then next year will be even better. But that's all I've got time for today, so I'd like to thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you again next week. Thank you very much, and goodbye.